STEYN just keeps changing his stories, and BBM doesn't use cell phone numbers, it uses a PIN. There's a difference between rebooting a phone and resetting. It's surprising how a phone could have been rebooted at the time in which it was confiscated. And I'm just like, he is the witness of the court. He is here to assist the court. What does he mean he will not be available? He will make himself available, otherwise he will be subpoenaed.
And I'm bad like the Barbie. I'm a doll, but I still wanna party. Things felt like I'm ready to bend. I'm a 10, so I pull in a 10. Like Daddy.
Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Nogwazi Ntombela, also known as Kwazi Bear on all social media platforms. Do subscribe, be a part of this family, and if you're a returning subby, welcome back, darling. Now guys, as you know, every week I come with a weekly analysis in the Senzo Meyiwa trial, so today I'm doing exactly that. Before we get into the video, please like this video, comment and engage down in the comment section down below, and also use the super thanks button to super thanks me. There's another small request. If you're not getting notifications when I post, kindly click on the bell next to the subscribe button so that you're notified every time I upload and you do not miss a post. The reason why we ask you guys to like and engage in our content is so that YouTube recommends the content to more people, and therefore that will help our family grow, as well as to help the family grow financially when you super thanks. So let's get into the proceedings for the week. On Monday, the 12th of August, STEYN is back on the stand to give his testimony with regards to the cell phone evidence. As we know, he had come before the court last year in around July, and there are some issues that arose when Pinky Vithalingham gave her evidence about the cell phone or Vodacom records. So now STEYN was asked to come and clarify certain aspects with regards to his evidence. Now, we did find out on Monday that the people that actually edited the Vodacom data from PDF to Excel are the TSU, which is a unit in the police force. The surprising thing about STEYN's evidence now is that in July 2023, when he testified, he had said that Kelly Khumalo had communication with accused number 5 before and after the incident of Senzo Meyiwa's death. Now, the two calls that are in question are the call for the 2nd of August as well as the 15th of October. This clearly was before the incident and not after. So the first issue that STEYN came to clarify is the fact that the call, specifically he said one of the calls, which was on the 2nd of August, was a data call. So it would not appear in Vodacom's records. But as time went on and he was asked about the second call, he did say that the call was an airtime call. So on Monday, we did have an early adjournment due to the fact that the defense were set to consult with the ballistic expert. So we adjourned early on Monday, and those were the proceedings for the day. On Tuesday, the 13th of August, the cross-examination by Mngomezulu, defense for accused number 1, did begin, and he mostly focused on the POPI Act. With regards to the cell phone downloads, we do have a POPI Act, and Mngomezulu basically touched on that and questioned whether the download of Kelly Khumalo's phone was actually lawful at the time, because he does say that the POPI Act was introduced in 2013, but there was an argument with regards to the fact that the POPI Act was introduced in different sort of sections or portions. So we did have an introduction in 2013, and then they rolled out several different other sections in the Act. Mngomezulu didn't waste too much time with his cross-examination, and then Ramosipili took over. And the first thing Ramosipili did touch on is the issue of the rebooting of the phone. Now, when STEYN gave evidence with regards to Kelly Khumalo's phone, he does say that it seemed as though Kelly Khumalo's phone was rebooted the day after the incident. Now, the surprising thing about this particular reboot is that it was done in the early hours of the 27th of October, around 1 o'clock. Now, the reason why I say this is surprising is because Kelly Khumalo, Tumelo, and the rest of the people that were in the house, their cell phones were confiscated by the police. We've heard the testimony of Zandi, Kelly Khumalo's sister, saying that when they came back from the hospital, the police took their phones basically as exhibits. So it's surprising how a phone could have been rebooted at the time in which it was confiscated. Another thing that I'm very worried about with regards to STEYN's testimony is the fact that he said Kelly Khumalo rebooted her phone and basically some of the data on the phone was deleted. And when he goes on to explain this rebooting further on in the week, he says that she set it to factory settings. Now, there's a difference between rebooting a phone and resetting. If you reboot a phone, you basically restart it, but everything on the phone is still available. And when you reset the phone, as STEYN has said Kelly Khumalo allegedly did, she shouldn't have any of the applications still available on her phone, because when you set your phone to factory settings, it deletes everything on the phone. So I'm wondering how some information was deleted and some was kept on the phone. Another thing Ramasipile touched on Tuesday was the fact that STEYN, in his previous testimony, had said that the phone was at Muleleki Tower, which is closer to the Basotho hostel. Surprisingly now, STEYN says he doesn't know the name of the hostel and he just knows that it's near a hostel. Now, based on Pinky's evidence, the Basotho hostel is the furthest from Muleleki Tower. I mean, the Muleleki Tower is the furthest from the Basotho hostel. So how is it that the phone was pinging at Muleleki Tower when it is said to have been at the Basotho hostel? Interesting question. Ramasipile then completed his cross-examination, and Advocate Mnisi for accused number 3 then took over and he brought the house down. Now, one of the things that I picked up from Mnisi's cross-examination is the fact that STEYN, when he's been asked questions, he wants to refer to Pinky's data. Now, this is surprising to me because he, when he testified, said all the information that he has will not be on Pinky's data because it was data calls. Now, when Advocate Mnisi asked him about the second call on the 15th of October, STEYN clearly says that call was an airtime call. So if it was an airtime call, that call should appear on the Vodacom data. However, it is not there. He then comes back and says, no, it wasn't an airtime call, it was also a data call. STEYN just keeps changing his stories. As Mnisi continues to cross-examine him, STEYN then gets annoyed with Mnisi, or the way in which Mnisi is examining him or cross-examining him, and he then says, you know what, I cannot take this anymore, and he threatens to walk out of the court. And if I can quote him, he says, I can't take this anymore. And so Mnisi just stands back and says, okay, if you're saying you're leaving, then okay. And the judge then basically says to Mnisi, no, you cannot tell the person that they can be excused, because STEYN clearly says, can he be excused? He wants to walk out of the court. And Mnisi says, well, you're excused. And the judge says, counsel knows very well that you cannot excuse any witness. Only the court can do so. So we adjourned for the afternoon on Tuesday, and those were the proceedings. They ended on a very high note, with STEYN losing his temper on the day. On Wednesday, the 14th of August, we continued with Advocate Mnisi's cross-examination. But before the cross-examination commenced, the judge did want to have a talk with all of the counsels as well as the witness before the court, stating that the events of the previous day, what had happened with STEYN, was basically unacceptable. And he quoted a few cases and basically called everyone to order and said that everybody should respect each other in the court. Mnisi continued with his cross-examination, and he does put it to STEYN that STEYN is fabricating the evidence, and that is the reason why he's adding the 2 hours onto his data. Now, another surprising thing about Wednesday that STEYN said during his cross-examination, when he was questioned as to when does the 2-hour rule actually happen, or when is it applied with regards to records, he had initially told the court that you apply the 2-hour rules onto your downloads. And when Mnisi then refers him to Pinky's data and asks him, like, here you're talking about Kelly Khumalo being on the road and the towers are moving, so when do you apply the 2-hour rule? And he basically says every time a tower changes, the rule applies, which is very confusing, because that means by the time Kelly moves from Kimberley to Johannesburg, you would have added a whole day to the events, and it doesn't really make sense. So those were the proceedings for Wednesday. The judge then indicated that Pinky Vythilingham might have to come back to court to clarify certain issues or a question that arose from Mnesi's cross-examination. On Thursday, the 15th of August, Baloyi indicates that Pinky Vythilingham is not available on Thursday and Friday. She can only make herself available on Monday for the court. And STEYN says, well, he hopes that he'll be done with his cross-examination either today or tomorrow because he will not be available. And I'm just like, he is the witness of the court. He is here to assist the court. What does he mean he will not be available? He will make himself available. Otherwise, he will be subpoenaed. But anyway, they continue with the cross-examination of Mr. STEYN. Mnesi asking questions such as what legislation does he use in order to compile information, and STEYN then clarifies that the information that he was referring to was not compiled by himself. He only went to the system and printed, which is funny because when the judge referred to the information, he says, no, STEYN is the compiler of this information, and STEYN clearly denies it. There was a huge argument in court with regards to Mr. Mnesi referring to Mr. STEYN as Mr. STEYN. STEYN didn't take kindly to Advocate Mnesi referring to him as Mr. STEYN. Mnesi says, but there's no disrespect in me calling you Mr. STEYN. And he says he wants to be referred to as Colonel. Mngomezulu then stands up and says there's a difference between a title and a rank. As far as we're concerned, you are a retired police officer, so referring to you as Mr. is actually correct. And he says if he's no longer a police officer, then his job basically as a witness is done. Then there's no need for him to be in court. That is now the second time that STEYN has threatened to leave the court in 2 days. Ramusipili also stands up to say this is really becoming a joke, and the fact that Mnesi is referring to Mr. STEYN as Mr. STEYN shouldn't be an issue, and that we should proceed. Indeed, we did proceed. Mnesi asked if the judge or the court could make a ruling with regards to this because it is becoming a problem, and the judge refused to make a ruling about STEYN being referred to as Mr. STEYN or Colonel STEYN. So Mnesi continues with his evidence, and along the lines, he does ask STEYN what app was used for the communication, because he does say it as a data call. And then STEYN says it was BlackBerry Net. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not a person who is into IT and all of that, but we don't have an app called BlackBerry Net. We did have BBM, which was a social media app that was used on Blackberries, and after some time, it was introduced to Android phones. However, with the BBM chat, you needed a PIN. Everybody that communicated on BBM required a PIN to communicate. So it's not possible that you could pick up a cell phone number as a contact as opposed to a BBM PIN. So that's where I have a problem with that. And if he had said it was a WhatsApp call, I'd still have a problem with that because WhatsApp calls were not available in 2014. So that BlackBerry Net issue, I still have a problem with it, because even when Mnesi asked, oh, so they were using Blackberries, and he says, I don't know if the other person was using a BlackBerry, but Kelly Kumalo was using a BlackBerry. But it could not have been BlackBerry Net. It had to have been BBM. And BBM doesn't use cell phone numbers, it uses a PIN. The last bit of Mnesi's cross-examination focuses on the chronological order of events with regards to the cell phone data. So he goes through all the data for the 2nd of August. And when you look at the transactions in the morning from about 9 a.m. in the morning, they are in chronological order: 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 10:15, 10:20. However, this transaction that is said to have happened between accused number 5 and Kelly is in the middle of the page, and it's 10 o'clock at night. And then after that call, it then continues with the chronological order that it was going in, with 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning. So Mnesi then indicates that the reason why it messes up the chronological order of the events of the day is because that information was planted, and STEYN denies this. Then he goes onto the 15th of October and the same incident happens, but with regards to the other days, there's a chronological sequence to how the calls and the SMSs and everything was happening on that phone. Mnisi then makes STEYN admit to the fact that PDF cannot be manipulated. However, the document that we have before us can be manipulated. You can add things, you can remove things, and so forth. And he does admit that, and then Mnisi completes his cross-examination. Nxumalo then stands, and he really surprised me. He really took me by surprise with his cross-examination. Let's get into it. The first line of questioning by Nxumalo is the fact that Pinky's information or Pinky's data does not match what STEYN's data has, and he asked STEYN that when you worked on this information, did you not see that there's a difference? And he says no, there wasn't a difference. Then Nxumalo then asked the state to beam the two statements or the two different sets of data, and he says that is not the information that he worked on. When Nxumalo did ask the state to beam the information for him, the judge was very rude towards Nxumalo because Nxumalo addressed the court and said, I would like the state to assist us in beaming. And he says, well, then what's your problem? And I'm just like, why is the judge so rude to the defense? But they did end up beaming it, and then STEYN denies the evidence before the court. Nxumalo then gets into a very interesting point where he says, I will prove to you that this is the very same information that you worked on. And then he starts asking him questions about what the definition of LAC is. And STEYN then says it's latitude. And Nxumalo says, no, not LAT, LAC. And he says he doesn't know the meaning of LAC because he doesn't work on that information. And then he asks him the number. There was a number on the data that mentioned the towers, and he says no, he doesn't work with towers, so he doesn't know. Then Nxumalo says no, but this information is on your statement, so why are you saying that you don't know it? And STEYN then says no, I don't know this information. So basically STEYN came to the court and denied his very own exhibits. Nxumalo is saying that I'll demonstrate to you right now that as we go into this information, this is the exact information that you worked on. And he says, so on this information, we have the terms of the data calls and everything. Do you admit that those are the same? And he says, no comment. With regards to the 2-hour rule, you were very specific in saying long West information should be added 2 hours, but you didn't mention it on your statement. He says, no comment. So as far as I'm concerned, at this moment, STEYN became very hostile towards Nxumalo and did not want to answer any of the questions that Nxumalo was posing to him. Nxumalo then gets into the call that was said to have been made by Arthur Mofokate on the exact same day and the exact same time as the one that they have changed and said is accused number 5 calling Okeli. Then he says, can you read what that transaction says? And STEYN refuses to read the statement, saying that he will not comment on Pinky's statement because he worked on a document from Vodacom. Now, my question is, Pinky is from Vodacom. Pinky has come to testify about the very same information, and she clearly indicated that this information has some discrepancies. So why are you saying that you got information from Vodacom as if the information from Pinky is not the same? Are you denying Pinky's evidence? Are you denying Pinky's information? Nxumalo touches on a very, very important aspect in his cross-examination where he says, on your download information, can you see that the people that are calling Kelly Khumalo's number are saved? You can see over there it's written Arthur Mofokate, over there it's written Longwe or whatever. But these 2 calls, specifically the ones that you said were made by accused number 5, the number is not saved. Yet you have come before the court and told us that Kelly Khumalo had saved accused number 5's number as NA. So why is it not reflecting as NA on this database? And he says maybe it's because she rebooted her phone. My chat is still that if she rebooted her phone, those numbers would not even be in the phone book. If she reset her phone, they would not even be in the phone book. STEYN. Nxumalo then takes out a document and wants to ask STEYN if he recognizes the document. He passes the document to STEYN and he asks him, have you seen this document before? And STEYN says no, he's never seen it in his life. And Umalo then says, but is that not the downloads? And he's like, yeah, these are downloads, but these are not the downloads that I worked in. Now, this is very, very funny and very, very interesting, because how come the state has handed over documents to the defense as exhibits? They've handed them over to the defense. They've handed them before the court as exhibits. And now STEYN, after having testified on the same exhibits, is now denying them. He says that's not the data he worked on. He still has the data he worked on at home, and he'll come with it tomorrow, being today, on Friday. And I was just like, now he's denying his own exhibits? Come on. Come on. Those were the proceedings for Thursday, and today being Friday the 16th of August, STEYN had indicated yesterday that he would need to fly out of Johannesburg this afternoon, and we were going to adjourn early. However, when he came into court today, he came with a brand new disc, brand new evidence that he says is the evidence that he worked on. And then the defense needed to actually go through that disc, and the judge then made a decision that the defense will go through this disc, and we will continue with Mr. STEYN on Monday. So we did adjourn early today to allow the defense to have a look at this new information that STEYN has brought before the court, because he denied his own exhibit yesterday, so he brought a new exhibit today. And on Monday, the judge has requested that court starts at 9 o'clock right through to 5 o'clock because of the time that has been wasted on all of this. So Monday we will continue with the cross-examination of STEYN by Umalo as well as Umshololo. I hope you guys have a lovely weekend. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget, big thumbs up. I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.